Hello everyone, welcome to a new video in the series of Introduction to Programming using Python. Today we are going to discuss variables, and we will start by solving this problem. So assume we have a triangle with height equal 4, base equal 5, and the area of triangle is calculated by half times height times base. So we will solve this problem using Python and show the result using print function. So let's move into Jupyter. I will simply write print, then parentheses, and inside I will write a text that will describe the result. So the area of a triangle with height equal to 5 and base equal to 4. Sorry, I switched that. Height equal to 4 and base equals to 5 is then the calculation, the actual multiplication will be done as a second argument to print. So I will add a comma, then I will write half, 0.5, then the star sign for multiplication, then 4, then 5. Now I will run this and I will see that the area of a triangle with height equal 4, base equal 5 is 10.0. Now, let's solve the same exact problem, this time using variables. So what is a variable? A variable is just a memory location. So you have the memory or the RAM. You can specify a location in the memory and give this location a name. Okay, so for example, in our problem, we can take a location in memory, name it base, and give it the value 5. Similar thing for height and for area. I'll give this value 4, and area will be a result of a calculation. So a variable is just some place in memory where I can give it a name and store a value inside it. So let's see how to create a variable in Python. I will start by creating a new cell. Then I will type the name of the variable first. So start with height, then equal sign, then the value I want to give this variable. Same thing for base, the name of the variable, equal sign, the value, then area. So a variable name, equal sign. However, this time I want to store the result of a calculation. So I will write the formula of area of triangle. Now here I can write times 4 times 5, or I can use my own variable. So instead of this, I will write height instead of 4 and base instead of 5. So multiplied by base. Now, what will happen here is that Python will substitute these variables with their values, then do the multiplication and store the result inside area. Now I will write my print statement. Again, the same thing. I will write the area of a triangle with height equal to 4 and base equal to 5 is, and now here, instead of the formula, I will write the variable name. So the variable that is storing the calculation result is the variable area. So when print is executed, Python will look up this variable in memory. It will put its value in this position here. So one more enhancement we can do to this program is, instead of writing 4 and 5 here, I will put the variables inside this statement. So how do I do this? How do I substitute? How do I put the variable base and substitute its value in the print result, and the variable height, substitute its value in the print result? I will do the following. So after the equal sign, I will close the quote like this. Then I will add a comma for a new argument. Then instead of 4, I will write the variable name. Then I will continue my statement by adding another comma and a new argument. So here I will continue with the words and base equal. I will close the quotation again, new comma, and the variable base. Comma again, open a new quotation, and put the word is inside it. So see what we've done here. We have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 arguments. Okay, so the first argument is what we call the string, so it will be displayed as it is. Then we have a variable here outside a string. So Python will look up this value in the memory and substitute it here. Then we have another string, so it will be shown as it is. Another variable, so its value will be substituted. Another string will be shown as it is. And the value here, the variable here will have its value substituted. So when I run this, notice how I have the exact same output as the line above. Okay. Now, one advantage of using variables is that whenever I want to change the height or base, I only need to change one line of code. So if the base is now 10, I just change this and I run. Notice how my result is updated and my statement also is updated, base equal 10. Okay. So let's get back to the slides. So again, a variable is a storage location or a memory location in a computer program. Each variable has a name and hold a value. We've seen these 3 statements in our code earlier. Each one of these is called assignment statement. Okay, so we are assigning whatever value on the right-hand side to the variable on the left-hand side. Okay, same thing here. We are assigning 5 into base, and we are assigning the result of this calculation to the variable area. Now let's solve this problem. Assume you have a variable that is storing the number of students in a class, and the number started at 40. Then we have 8 new students registering the course. So we need to update the count of students in the variable. Let's move into Jupyter. I will create a new cell, and I will create a variable called student count equal to, it was 40. So I have 8 new students registering the course. So how would I update the variable? I will write student count equal to student count plus 8. So what I'm doing here is that I am taking the old value of the variable student count, which was 40, and I am adding 8 to it. Okay, then I am storing whatever the result in student count. So here we have 48 assigned to the variable student count. Okay, so this is how you update a variable. Okay, so let's see the result in a print statement. So if I print student count here, what value I'm expecting? I'm expecting the value 48. So run this, I get 48. So when I update the value again, assume 10 more students register, I write student count equals student count plus 10 and print student count again. Now I will have the new value to be 58. So 48 is coming from this print statement, 58 is coming from this print statement. So let's get into more detail onto how this exactly is working. You have the memory right here. This statement will create a variable student count. Let's actually create a larger space. So the statement here will create a variable called student count, and it will assign the value 40 to it. Now, when I run the second statement, okay, in any assignment statement, we start from the right-hand side. So I will take this variable. I will look it up in memory, student count, the value is 40, add 8 to it. I have 48. I will store the result 48 inside the variable student count. So what will happen is that Python will erase the old value and it will assign the new value to the variable. So when I run the third statement, Python will look in the memory, will try to find the variable student count, it will find the value is 48, so it will print you 48. So now we move to the fourth statement. Again, this is assignment statement. Any assignment statement is evaluated from the right-hand side. You get student count, you read it from memory, you have the value 48, you add 10, you get 58. Where do you store 58? We store it inside the left-hand side, which is the variable student count. So let's do this. We delete the old value and we store the new value 58. So when I run the last statement, when Python execute the last statement, it will look for the variable student count in the memory. It will find 58, it will print you 58, okay? So back to the slides. Notice how we calculated the value on the right-hand side, then assign it to the variable on the left-hand side, okay? This is basically how you evaluate any assignment statement in Python. Start from the right, you evaluate, you store on the left. Okay, so we discussed variable and updating their value. What can I assign or store in a variable? We can store many types of values. So we can store numbers like 5 and 4, and we can store numbers with fractional part like 10.0. Okay, so any number with no fraction, any whole number is called integer value. So 5 is of type integer. 10.0, anything with a fraction is called a float value. So you can store integer or float inside a variable. You can also store text or what we call string. So I can create a variable called name and store the text Adam inside it. Okay, so anytime you want to store text, you put it between quotation mark, and everything here is called a string or str for short. So these three types that we've seen, three types of value, integer, float, and string, are called data type. So why do we need this concept of data type? Because data type define basically how or what type of operation can we perform on values. So for example, I can easily say, for instance, A equal to 5 times 6, right? I am multiplying two integers and I will store the result 30 inside the variable A. However, I cannot do operations like this. I cannot write Adam plus 5 in Python and store it in a variable B. I cannot add a string with integer. This operation is not allowed in Python, okay? So the importance of the concept of data type is data type determines what type of operation are compatible, okay? Or what type of operation are allowed with certain data type. Another point of data type, which you can see if you study other courses in computer science, is that they determine how these values are stored inside memory. But we are not going to details on this point. Okay, now we come to this question: how do you choose a name for your variable? The first rule is name must start with a letter or underscore. So you cannot create a variable that starts with a number, okay, or punctuation. The remaining character, okay, so this is the rule about the first character. This is the rule about first character. This is about the remaining characters. They must be letters, digits, or numbers. So from 0 to 9, or underscore. Symbols such as the question mark or the percentage sign cannot be used in a variable name. Okay, what else do we have? You cannot write a name with the spaces. So I cannot create a variable, for example, like this, student, then space, count, equal 40. This is not allowed in Python. Also, I cannot use certain words like F and class. These are reserved words by Python. They have a special meaning and usages, as we will see later in the series. Okay, question, which is legal variable name? Is this legal? Yes, start with a letter and the remaining character are either letters or digits. This is totally legal. It's starting with letter. There is no remaining character. This is also legal. It's all letters. This is not legal because it starts with a number. This is not legal. It has a space. This is not legal. It is a reserved word. And this has a special symbols, the slash and the dot. Okay, so these are some recommendations onto how to choose a variable name. So the previous list we've seen, the 5 rules above, these are some specific rules you have to follow to name your variable in Python. However, the two items here are just recommendations. So the first one, you should use a descriptive name. So student name, as in the example we've seen before, or sorry, student count is a descriptive name. It is clear that this variable is storing the number of students in a class. I can name my variable X and I can assign 40 to it, then update it to have the value 48, and the program will work just fine. However, this is not a descriptive name. The second rule is, and we will see some exception to it later, but in general, your variable should start with a small letter. Okay, lastly, we have this idea of Python as case sensitive. So when you create a variable base, for example, and you assign the value 4, you can use the same name, however, with different case. Okay, so base with capital A, this will be a totally different variable. So these two are totally different variable. It's like this is A and this is B. So the case of the letters when you choose a variable name is important in Python. This is why we say Python is case sensitive. So even one letter, the letter A here, and one is small and the other is capital, this will make each one different variable. Okay, so whenever you hear this, Python is case sensitive, that means the case of each letter in a variable name matters. It makes a variable different from another variable with the same name, but with different case. So that's all for today, and I will see you in the next video.